Hello everyone, welcome to, this is just slightly too long to be a Blue Sky post, but it's a little bit short for a second channel discussion, so I guess this is going to be paced really awkwardly. I wanted to do a brief talk on where are all the crabs, despite the fact that crab has been added to quite a few weapons by now compared to the start of the game, and that many of these are quite strong. This is still one of the rarer specials we see, especially for how good it is over such a long period of time, so I want to briefly talk about why we don't see as many. Now, the answer for about half of these is just that they have another kit that's better. Which feels kind of weird to say. Usually when a special is this strong, having other kits that are better than it is really hard to find. Some of these are mostly due to the sub combination. Splattershot Pro has Forged Splattershot Pro with the Suction Bomb and Booyah Bomb. While Booyah is a little bit weaker, Suction Bomb on a weapon that's trying to be a mix of supportive and aggressive is going to give you a lot more team utility. Obviously, Burst Bomb is going to be better than Mist on Stamper, and even Zipcaster is probably a little bit stronger in this case. So these two are probably fairly obvious at this point. On top of this, I'd say that it plays a factor that Splattershot Pro is basically never seen, and Sword is such a hard weapon in general that if you're going to learn it and put in all that time, you're more than likely going to play the one that's a little bit better anyway, delegating this weapon to use on just a few map modes that are very rarely seen. Heavy Edit Spiraling is the other one that has a, quote, better kit, but this one is a little bit more complicated. See, I don't think the problem is that there's another Heavy Spiraling. In this case, I don't think the competition between Heavy and Heavy Edit is really that fierce. This is a cooler weapon and this is a crab weapon. That's already going to create a lot of differences. But let's think about it real quick. What cooler weapons can you actually pick with this? I think this is where the problem starts to arise. Now, Edit can't really pair with itself too much as it's pretty slow with its charge time and all that. And Pencil also has a slow charge time. Which means the only common cooler weapon left is NZAP. Something that already pairs very well with the vanilla Edit spiraling. I think Crab Edit could be really interesting for comps, honestly. But for the most part, being limited to Zap as your only real cooler option to run alongside it alone is gonna kill the ability to use the weapon quite a lot as is. That's pretty situational to be able to find someone who picks that when Pencil and even the normal Edit are so common by comparison. I think this problem would be a lot easier if there were other viable cooler options. Particularly Atri and Dynamo would probably slot quite nicely into whatever Edit wants to do. However, I just really don't see those happening too much with buffs, and so Crab Edit has indirectly suffered from it as a result, which is a little bit unfortunate. The other weapons are a little bit different. I think L3 actually competes with Splash. Sounds a little backwards, but these are both short-range shooter options that play a bit more supportively. Burst Bomb's going to be a more helpful tool for that, and Splash as a main weapon is just a bit more consistent than L3, even after L3's recent damage buff. If anything, I think L3D with its Burst Bomb Hammer kit has a bit more potential for a unique playstyle. The E-Splash itself, though, arguably has competition with a, quote, better kit being the Neo Splash. However, I'd say the playstyle between these weapons are so different that it's not really worth comparing them at all. However, I do think it's worth talking about what makes V-Splash special. Especially when it was more common, this weapon was really picked for its ability to be a bit more aggressive at times. A lot of that came in its ability to use its burst bombs for its team. And unfortunately, with 90% double burst, it's pretty difficult to use burst for your team pretty consistently, even if you do have something like Last Ditch Effort in a zones-only environment. The problem only gets worse in other modes when Last Ditch is worse. So, unfortunately, I don't really see this problem going too much. Splash is still fine enough to where we see it a decent bit for short-range options, but if it had a little bit more use case with its burst bombs, I feel like it would be able to be picked a little bit more and honestly have a much more healthy playstyle than the other ones. Side note, I think 45% burst was a bit too much in its own right. Honestly, there could be an entire discussion on how I think it unfairly hurt its weapons. Bit too harsh of ink consumption for S-Blast, limited double burst capabilities for what clearly needs it for a supportive option with Dowser, and honestly, probably the thing that overkills the difficulty on Splatoon Stamper. I guess for the other weapons it doesn't affect it too badly, but outside of Carbon, I'd still say it feels unnecessary on them. I guess that's a topic for another time though, but yeah, random side note over, I guess. I think the burst bomb nerf was probably a bit much. Bomb defense fixed, burst spam being a major issue. I think that was all we really needed. Anyway, there's one weapon I haven't talked about yet. Dually, because there isn't a problem with Dually. The other kit is N-Parry, which competes with Tetra more than anything else, not winning that fight in the first place. This weapon is pretty prominent for its use with Crab, and as the meta continues to trend more to Crab Tank, or not more to Crab Tank, again, more to dualies in general, I think that this is going to be a pretty consistent option for maps where you need a bit more help as a retake tool, or comps where Crab can be fairly strong, probably leaning to more backlist style comps, where Crab can function as a temporary anchor when needed. So, that's the short answer, I guess. Limited amount of kits that have a lot harsher competition than most specials in the game, as well as a high difficulty or comp-making requirement for a few of these. That's why we don't see Crab as much, despite the insane weapons that are paired with it. So yeah, this was a very fun, just a bit too long to be a Blue Sky Post video. Bye!